My 18-year-old son's life is being ruined by a 28-year-old man, and I'm going to fight back and get him away from him. Original post hi, and thanks ahead of time for your time and imagination. I'm in hell right now and need some thoughts. My disabled son just turned 18 years old. He needs and takes many drugs and needs help at school. We're so proud of him because he does well in some situations and is on track to finish and go to trade school with help. He's easily swayed and a little awkward around other people. And need friends badly. We've had a hard time for years because he gives away his things and gets into bad situations. For example, someone offers to sell him rocks at a park, and he thinks they are polished gemstones that are worth collecting. He asks to see them. And when he finds out they are drugs, he goes crazy and gets picked on easy. He'll do anything to get along with people. That makes my heart hurt. We're working on it in therapy with people we trust, etc. The grown man. He is 28 years old. We'll call him Quentin. He often doesn't have a place to sleep and sleeps in parks in a tent, or our city will give him a coupon for a hotel stay. He leaves his 2 pit bulls in the tent or hotel room while he works at a fast food restaurant. They have not been spayed or neutered. If he had nothing to do with my son, I would feel sorry for him and his animals. He first asked my son to work while he watched his dogs in the park. My son is so happy to have a friend and be able to help out. He also loves animals. He will spend 8 hours or more every day or night. I was in a park by myself and watched these dogs. He would ask if he took Quentin's dog's dog food, toys, and blankets from our house. It doesn't matter if we say yes or no. We would say yes months ago because I like that my son wants to help these dogs. Quentin told my son he didn't have to stay with us when he turned 18 a few months ago. He could stay with him instead. Our son slept in the tent with the dogs or on the ground in the park. For weeks. He gets beer and bread from Quentin. While he works, our son will watch the dogs for whole shifts. He tells Quentin that he will help him get a tent and some coupons. Because my son has disabilities and some health problems, the cops are understanding. But he's 18 years old. The school is helpful. But he's almost 18 and will soon be graduating. Before now, everything was going well, so we had never looked into medical conservatorship or anything like that. We don't take taking away another young adult's civil freedoms lightly. Quentin got a new room at the hotel last week. Son came to stay with him after getting a message from him. While Quentin worked, my son sat in the room and watched his dogs. I think they smoked and hung out when Quentin wasn't there. We could text my son, but he would say that he is an adult and can go wherever he wants. He didn't take his medicine, go to school, do part of his part-time job, or go to another important meeting for a week. He cares more about being Quentin's friend than anything else, and it makes him happy to help his friend. He says, Quentin is like a brother to me. I've never had a better brother than him. Quentin has been kicked out by his own family. They're close by. I have no idea who watches the dogs when my son isn't around. It's been a week since my son gave Quentin his bike because he needs it more than I do. When our son got home. Yesterday he had a full-blown mental breakdown because he hadn't been on any medicine and had probably been drinking a lot for so many days. His health problems are getting worse. He was hitting his head on the concrete floor, and when we called 911, he spat at the cops, who then put a spit hood over him and held him down. It was terrible, and he begged for help. We don't know when he will be steady enough to go home because he might need to have surgery. He made sense today, cried, and said sorry, but he was still sure that Quentin was his friend. I also feel bad because I know that it's good for my son to not tell us everything when he's 18. He should have his own friends, life, etc. I'm excited about that day. He does have friends who are about the same age as him, and it's more acceptable for them to hang out. But these other kids are busy and have more things they need to do. Not 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And Quentin is. My son loves it when his phone rings and a friend needs him. What can I do to make this man's life worse? Or at least make hanging out with my son too dangerous or uncomfortable? Please do not do anything that will hurt or stress out the dogs. They aren't to blame, and my son will never forgive me. Some of Oop's thoughts. On May 9th, 2024, 4 days later, Oop replied to all of them. Commenter. It sounds like you might need to file for medical custody. I know you don't want to, but it sounds like you have a good reason to, and right now it's the better option. Without help, I don't think things will turn out well. Wow, thanks for this and other posts like it that make me think again about conservatorship. On Monday I called a lawyer. I had already looked into it and gathered that information, but was very hopeful that it wouldn't be necessary once safe work started and he had less free time. Commenter, pay someone to be your son's friend and watch out for him. To be honest, this guy sounds like he might be a con artist. A second scam is sometimes the only way for someone to get deeper into the first one. It's sad, but there is a bot on Arwas that does recovering scams. In essence, people offer to get back what you lost in exchange for a fee. While not ideal, if you could pay someone to be your better friend. And then tell him that his old friend is stupid. It would work like good peer pressure. If you want to help the person make new friends, you could help them find the right places to do so. Out of the box. What great ideas you all have here. And I like the ones that came after this one in this post. I asked some young people older than him to hang out with him, work out with him, and play basketball as mentors or fitness coaches. Make friends with good people who don't want him to get sick. Thanks for this. It's possible for me here in our area. Commenter. Everything I would do for my son's safety and well-being if it were my son. I think you should just make this man's life awful. Talk to his boss about your problems with him. Tell them he's selling drugs or being rude to people. If he has a room, you should report him for selling drugs and making violent threats. Call the cops and say that his dogs are attacking people in the park if he stays there. All of it anonymously, of course. You could go to the park late at night and set off a bunch of fireworks close to his tent. Do this over and over. Make ruining him your life's work. When it gets too much for him, he'll move on. My son also has autism, and I worry a lot about people taking advantage of him. I hope everything works out for you. Out of the box. Thanks for this. I did call his boss because Quentin is giving drink to more than just my son's friends in the neighborhood. I also called the management at the hotel, where he sometimes stays, to let them know that this person was letting a needy teen stay there and miss school and medications, which is against their rules. Quentin didn't like it when I called his motel job. There were so many opinions that made me feel like I could do something about this and make his life harder. Yes, get your son a dog. That's a great idea. Thanks to everyone else who said they might get my son a dog. He does have a medical warning service dog, as well as other dogs, a cat, and fish as pets. So it's clear that he really loves animals. He will leave the service dog with us even though his dogs need him, which breaks our hearts. The dog is safe with us, and we love them. But yes, we use his skills with animals to help him in other parts of his life. Talk to the cops once more. I just talked to the cops again tonight. When they hear that he's 18, they sometimes treat him like an adult, but when they get to know him better, some of them are more ready to help because they know he's in trouble. He's kept busy. Yes, son has an interview tomorrow at a place where people can accept animals. He would stay busy, feel like he's making a difference, and have better people to hang out with in this kind of setting. Say something. Get rid of the dogs. Post about how they are being attacked on Facebook. Someone needs to step in and help them. Take down the tent. Is he sleeping without a permit? Get the police. Get Quentin out of here. He's not good for himself or anyone else right now. There needs to be a big intervention for everyone involved. For you and your son, the cops. In motion, there is a lot to lose. Out of the box. I did some of it this evening. Son came home from the hospital last night. He is back on his medications and is healthy. He goes to his school's special interest class and does great there. Surprise, he's back out with Quentin and the dogs while he's on a bike ride. The park is closed since it's after 10 p.m. Quentin is setting up the tent. The man who was sleeping in the park near the playground was homeless and had 2 pit bulls with him. I called the non-emergency line to tell the cops. The police moved him and then brought son back to us. This is what I will do. Also, I might fly our houses near the park to let them know that there is a homeless man with 2 pit bulls who sells drugs and alcohol to teens in the park near their home. This will make it less comfortable for him to be there. Thank you for this useful tip. Reader, you could ask Quentin if he would take cash and a bus ticket to get out of town. The least messy way to get him away from your son would be to do that. Or a different kind of ride out if you can get a bunch of scary people to fit in a van. I like and admire how independent you've made your son, but it's time for him to take charge. Thanks for this, Oop. After reading this, I did go find Quentin and pay him money to leave my son alone and stop calling him. He said no, and then he told my son that I had offered. He also told my son that I care too much about him. Thank you for these. I will block the number on my son's phone. There have been times when we stopped his number and gave our son an old flip phone because smartphones were too much for him to handle safely. But Quentin doesn't always have a phone. They use Instagram to talk on video. They can also use anyone else's phone to talk, use Instagram, and borrow phones. Follow him everywhere he goes. This tip to crash every group was great. That's what I started doing tonight. Why did Quentin get so mad? He told me I was bothering him. He finally left and told my son not to follow him. If Quentin says I'm too attached, son will repeat it. That's okay, I can do this every day. Very good advice. Change the post. This is where I asked for help a few months ago to get a guy named Quentin out of my son's life. Thank you so much for all the great ideas and nice words. My son has been healthy and happy for 3 months now. We found him a temporary place to live with 5 other young guys, 2 house managers, and a dog. He is becoming a grown-up by learning how to clean, cook, and get a job. It's like a dream come true therapy, going to the gym every day, yoga and skating. The house is about 40 minutes from where Quentin lives, and my son goes there because he wants to make friends, feel like an adult, learn new things, and be busy. They will also learn how to do the job. I did what you said as much as possible before this happened. I talked to the boss at both Quentin's job and the motel where he sometimes stays. They were told that Quentin let a disabled teen stay with him and gave him and some other teens drink. Manager is the owner of a small business in the area and took my information seriously. I also went to the hotel and showed my son the sign that said all guests must have ID. He doesn't have one. I told the boss that if he didn't follow the rules, I would call corporate. I also called the non-emergency police line when he was camping after the park closed and leaving his dogs during the day. PD would move him along. Someone told him that he should be his best friend and always be there for him. I did that. Hey, I'm here too. Quentin wants to see my son. I'm at the park and at your place of work. I am close to the motel. I even made flyers to let people in the park neighborhood, which has a playground for little kids, know about the tent, camping, and pit bulls that aren't spayed and are left alone. Quentin became more and more angry. He said I was following him around and that he was going to call the cops. To be nice, I said, please do. I'd love to tell the cops more about what you do with my son and other kids who aren't safe. I told him, if you want to be in my son's life, you can be in mine. It's your choice. After all of your help and advice, I felt really brave. I was ready to keep going for a long time. Until then, we hired a lawyer and I began looking for ways to help my son get job training because he wants to help and feel like an adult. He worked at a drugstore for a few weeks as part of a program run by a neighborhood organization. It meant a lot to him to fill shelves, clean, and help people. It also kept him busy for a month and took some of the focus off of Quentin. I think Quentin was either tired of seeing me or scared that he would lose his job. One of the motels he had been living at stopped letting him sometimes, so he had to start using a different one that was much farther away. It's farther to walk to work and loads of work. He must have seen that my son wasn't worth the trouble I was giving him and stopped calling me. Thanks a lot for all the thoughts. The whole time I was trying to fix things for my son, as his mom. I had no idea how to deal with Q. All of you were great. A big thank you from the mom of a young adult son who is happy, healthy, busy, and has a plan. Some thoughts. Commenter, I'm glad things are going well for you, but I don't understand why you have to bring up pit bulls that haven't been neutered in such a bad way. Right now, I'm all for spaying and neutering all animals because this country is having a terrible time with homeless pets. But I think your point wasn't brought up for the same reason. Oop, of course. Thanks for calling that out. I worry about the animals too. One reason I had trouble figuring out what to do at first is because of my son. I would want to help Q and his animals, or at least tell him where he could find help. Friends of mine work for groups that help people who don't have homes stay with their pets, who are usually family. A puppy was born to one of these dogs since the first post. I also tried to show my son that he wasn't in charge of the dogs, and that their lives were hard for everyone, until it was clear that my son was in great danger. It seems like I brought it up as another example of how the adult wasn't being responsible, and how the dogs that weren't being watched were not safe for them or any other animals that weren't fixed that might come into the park. The state of the animals makes me sad too, which is one reason my son felt he had to help so much. That's a bad thing. I care about them and never meant to hurt or scare them. For anyone in Houston, TX, who sees this, the plan number is 7,423. And I work for a non-profit called SIL Jobs. We help teens, young adults, and soldiers get trained and licensed. Long-term financial security is what we want to achieve through training, job placement, and teaching people about money. We get all of our money from private, government, state, and city donors. As a member, you don't have to pay anything for any lessons, certifications, or licenses. If you like what we're doing, please look us up and give. This will help us keep doing what we're doing. He works for SIL Jobs for Progress in Houston, Texas. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and any other site I forgot. There are events in the community that you can join to help us keep helping people who want a better future. If this sounds like I'm taking attention away from the original post, I'm sorry. Our services are helping a lot of people right now, and we'll do anything to help our people do well. Even though my job is just administrative and accounting, I believe in our group and mission with all my heart. Thanks, that's great. Yes, an organization like yours does help us a lot. And I'm so thankful that other people can help my son and I can be his mom. Thanks for your work and time. Let's move on to story 2. I made fun of his girlfriend's kids for being racist, and now my dad wants me to say sorry to them. First post, please bear with me. I'll do my best to make this short. When I was 23 and my sister was 20, my parents split up. I can't believe they were together for so long. It was such a bad match. When they broke up, we both let out a sigh of relief. Everyone was happier right away. Both of our parents have since found new partners. It's been a while since I really got along with my dad, but we're still good friends. When it comes to being PC, my dad is a lot less strict than I am, trust me. I'm not even close. He calls things stupid or things he doesn't like gay. Gay people fags Hillary Clinton a bad president because she'd nuke everyone on her period. And he gets angry that he can't use the N-word in public. I mean that he's the perfect example of a lily white guy from the late 1950s who is out of touch. No matter how much I love my dad, these things will always bother me when I'm with him. I have no choice but to put up with them. It's also important to note that my dad says some offensive things about women and gay people, but he never does them in public. He at least knows when to keep his thoughts to himself and his family. My dad has been seeing this woman. Let's call her Iris lately. Iris also has 2 children, ages 29M and 27F. Iris and I are not very close. I met her early this year at my dad's house, but it was only for a short time because I was drop off some things with him. She is new to my sister and neither of us has met her kids before. My dad likes this woman a lot, so he wants us, the kids from both sets, to get to know each other and the parents so that we can all be one big family. Even though my dad says offensive things about politics, he can be cute sometimes. Dad asked us all to come to dinner. Someone told me that my sister can be rude to people, so I told her to be nice. My dad should be happy, and I didn't want to upset Iris or her kids. We all start to get to know each other as we sit down. My dad took us to a Mexican restaurant because that's what our whole family likes. My mom is Mexican, and when I was a kid, we always had the best real Mexican food. Because my mom and dad broke up, my dad is really into taquerias to try to fill the void that my mom's great food left in his stomach. It's also important to know that my sister and I have very light skin, even though we are half Mexican. Even though our traits are clearly Mexican, or at least I think they are, everyone always thinks we are white European because of our skin color. When we sit down with Iris and her kids, the kids start whining right away. These grown-ups are upset that Spanish is used for half of the menu. On the menu, there was both a Spanish and an English name for each item. The descriptions were also written in English, so it wasn't like someone who spoke English couldn't read it. My sister speaks quietly and I speak Spanish almost perfectly. We're both in school to become English second language teachers, but we tried to tune out the worries that were running through our heads. We were able to have a nice conversation with them until the waiter came over to take our drink orders. The waiter didn't pay attention to Iris's son until he growled at him like a dog to get his attention and take his order first. Her daughter spoke very slowly and condescendingly, as if this man working at a restaurant for fat white people couldn't understand English. "Thank you very much." But when the waitress left, her son said, "I didn't expect the service to be very good. I don't even know if he could understand us, God bless his happy soul. He was so kind even though those 2 people treated him like an idiot." Since my dad had been here before, he told me not to go. He said, "The service here is great. You're going to love this food. I recommend," but I can't remember what he said. As they try to make peace, the son says, "It's not like I could understand him with that god-awful accent, either if these people want to come to America. They need to learn English. Probably against the law or some crap." My sister and I are usually nice and kind, but no one has ever said we are patient or suffer fools quietly. We didn't want to fight, so we just looked at each other and spoke Spanish to each other for the rest of the night. I felt bad because Iris looked embarrassed, but it was fun to be so small for the next hour or so while we ate dinner. We spoke English with Iris or her kids, but not with each other or my dad, who can understand but not speak it. We spoke Spanish as quickly and fluently as we could. My sister would always try to bring up the fact that we were Mexican and had grown up in a Hispanic home with our mom and her extended family. After that, my dad has called and texted us. Mostly me, since I'm usually in charge of these kinds of events, and beg us to say sorry to Iris's kids for making them feel bad. For making them look bad. I'm sure my dad didn't know they were going to be so mean to black people. Maybe he wouldn't have asked them to go to Mexican food, but I'm sure he doesn't even think what they said was that racist. He said things could have been worse and that you had no right to make them and Iris feel bad. I agree, Iris was lovely. I should have thought about how she felt, and I'm fine with calling or meeting her to say sorry for being so selfish and childish. But damn it, I don't want to say sorry to racists for calling them out on their racism and not taking it lying down. Is that really wrong? What should I do? Am I also being a jerk about this? I don't want to upset my dad, but I know he can't tell the difference between racism and other things. Besides, I don't think I should say sorry for hitting some racist adult jerks. TL Dr. Dad's new girlfriend's kids were racist toward Mexicans and didn't know that my sister and I are half Mexican. To make them feel bad, my sister and I spoke only Spanish all night to make them laugh. Now Dad wants me to say sorry to them for making them laugh. What do? What people say. Brown is still not free. That was funny, don't say sorry. Taken out. He said things could have been worse. Yes, you could too. You were smart not to call them out on their bigotry in front of everyone in the restaurant. Instead, you reminded them in a roundabout way that they don't know who might be listening or being hurt by it. Tell Dad and Iris that you know her kid's lack of knowledge doesn't say anything bad about her. But you think they should feel bad about what they did, and that you think they should not come to any more family dinners until they admit they were wrong and say sorry. Taken out. Say sorry, to be exact. Changes. So I came back to let you all know what's going on. Our mom has always been a lot quieter than us, so my sister and I told her about it. That made her laugh, and she said she wished she had been there to see the looks of Iris' kids. She told us to say sorry, though, because she knows how angry our dad can get over small things like this. But we didn't really want to do that. That's why I called Iris and asked if we could have coffee and talk about what had happened. When we met for coffee, she was very sorry and said that her kids get a lot of their funny ideas from their Republican biological father. She pretty much played down everything, which makes me think that she doesn't really think what they did was bad. She might just be sorry that my sister and I are part Mexican and that what they did hurt us. Anyway, Iris and I were the only ones at a Starbucks. My sister wasn't there. In a very short time, she has become very uninterested in what happened. She's always been that way. I told them that I knew everyone had the right to their own opinion, and that my dad has some ideas I don't agree with at all. But I thought it was rude of them to think we'd be okay with their racist comments, and that it was embarrassing to be seen with racists. Iris got angry when I called them racists, but I didn't back down. In any case, she was at least fair and said she was sorry again. I'm also sorry that we made her feel bad at dinner. And while I may have upset a few feathers that can't be straightened out, I think I've at least made things better with her. My dad is a different story. His stubborn refusal to talk to me until I say sorry to his girlfriend's kids is getting old. I made it clear that I wouldn't stand for it, and if he thought it was okay to be racist toward his kids, I wouldn't hang out with him or, worse, bring my mixed-race kids or his grandkids to visit. Just now, my sister texted him, "Have fun with the racists." She isn't good at being quiet. That's how things stand now. The finish wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible either.